I couldn't find a piece that really stood alone by itself to read for this. So I thought, well, what I would do is I would just start reading chapter 1, and when Matt chased me off the stage, then I'll stop. Because I'm sure I won't get through the end of it. Back when I first started, my chapters were about 3,000 words, and now they're about 1,500. So just as the older I get, the longer my chapters get. Pretty soon I figure I'm just going to do what Terry Pratchett does and not bother chaptering it at all. It's got this is, as Matt was saying, this is book 2 in the Peacekeeper series, which is book 6 in what I call the Torn Cur series, which was the Confederation Peacekeeper books. Originally I was known as a fantasy author. I had done created world fantasy. Did everybody hear me okay? Because I'm probably not close enough to the mic. There we go. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go through that whole bit again. I had done creative world fantasies. I had been one of the first people doing urban fantasy. And I called my editor up and said, I have this great idea for a space opera. It's Warped Drift with space marines and giant lizards. And there was this long pause. And she said, I think I'm going to need a little more than that. So, but that was the beginning of the Torn Cur books. Valley's Choice is the first one. They're all available in paper. The first two are available as an omnibus edition. I'm pretty sure they're available in ebook, and I know they're available in audiobook because I was listening to the first one on the way up here. It's very weird because her cadence is different than mine. So, all right, so this is just chapter 1 of A Peace Divided, Torn Cur, book 6. Gun runners were sliding over the almost buried shell of the APC, its rounds impacted against the metal. Runners, they told us, not users. Logical progression, Press fired a quick burst, shattering one of the last remaining windows on the ruined anchor, and interrupting the gun runner's fire long enough for worse to get to cover, especially if they knew we were coming. Gunny? They were a little too prepared, Torrid admitted, visor down, counting heat signatures at the windows. Unfortunately, if the scanner existed that could see through walls built to withstand both the rigors of space and atmospheric entry, she hadn't been issued one. The building at the center of every new colony, the anchor was a cross between a Marine Corps Sasumi packet and a large vacuum-to-air transport. 30 meters by 20 meters by 6 meters, it held everything the colony needed to get started. It emptied became a community center, a hospital, and, if necessary, a fortress. Designed to be nearly indestructible, it was part of the Confederation's promise to the younger races that they'd be supported as they spread throughout known space. Unfortunately, nearly indestructible hadn't been enough for this particular anchor to entirely survive a primacy landing force during the last year of the war. Although, to be fair to the anchor's designers and engineers, it also had to survive the Confederation Marine Corps retaking the colony, and no one had yet come up with anything building transportation tech that was marine proof. Marine resistant? Yes. Proof? No. Again, to be fair, the anchor was in better shape than the rest of the colony. Chico Company, Torrin's old unit, hadn't been part of the attack that had driven the primacy out of 3 points, but she could read the story of the battle on the ruins and debris, and she knew the weight of the senior NCO's vest, heavy with the number of bodies they carried out. Bodies reduced to their basic components for ease of transport. No Marine left behind. Her hands were steady on her KC-7, the familiar weight of the weapon canceling the twitch toward the places on her own vest where the dead had rested. The vest was a recent addition to the Warden's uniform, as was the KC-7. Change came slowly to the Wardens, to the entire Confederation, but change came, whether the elder races welcomed it or not. Not that Torrin expected anyone to welcome the need for armed response teams. Gunny, I've got hostiles on the roof. 2, no, 3, moving a large rectangular crane up through the trap. Boots on the ground, the angle kept Torrin from picking up any of the action on the roof. Up on one of the 2 remaining rock formations that had given 3 points its name, Binti Mishana had a clear line of sight. You have a shot? No, they've got a good idea of where I have to be, and they're using the crate to fuck me sideways. It's a mortar. Specks flashed along the lower edge of Torrin's visor as the mortar came online. Well, that answers a question we care about, Worst muttered. One of the dirtbags was artillery. Not likely, West argued as Torrin squeezed off 2 quick shots, one to hurt, one to hit. Someone screamed. We're almost in the building with them, and their structural integrity was breached before we got here. If one of them was artillery, they'd have known to open with the mortar. Torrin's team had been almost at the building, using the cover of darkness in the surrounding ruins when the gun runners had opened fire. They hadn't tripped a perimeter alert, and there had been no sentries to give the alarm. They might have responded to the second floor window, but Torn doubted it. The response was too fast, too accurate. For variable definitions of the word accurate, given they had 0 casualties and 2 gun runners bleeding. It seemed illegally selling weapons had taken precedent over practicing with them. I had a clear shot on the mortar, Gunny, targeting an ignition. Without thermals? Please, this close I could hit it with a rock. Take the shot. The sound of impact came almost on top of the crack of the sniper rifle. Profanity followed close behind. Resnick fired at a shadow momentarily visible in one of the windows. I was hoping for an explosion. Weren't we all? And Shauna fired again. One down, the other 2 hauled her back inside. 3 gun runners bleeding. All right, enough. Quick and quiet as a bust. Craig? Foreign. Land it. Al Amber, distraction on contact. You got it, boss. Resnick, worst. Heat imaging off and get ready to move. Plan B. Her own scanner back to neutral, her eyes readjusting to the night. Torn shifted both her weight and her grip on her weapon, ready to run. Shifting in place, she leaned away from the spray of dirt thrown up by a missed shot. It had missed by a smaller margin than previous shots. Odds were good, and the ex-Marines in the anchor had begun to remember their training. On the one hand, it was about time. Up until now, their aim had been embarrassing. On the other hand, as she was one of the targets they were aiming at, she felt the shuttle's approach as much as heard it. A deep hum in her bones that announced that Craig was fighting gravity with everything the VTA had. The Navy surplus vacuum air shuttle, provided by the Justice Department, had been straight up and down, sturdy enough to save their lives when it crashed, but with the flight capability of a brick. The Taken design shuttle they acquired next was faster, significantly less sturdy, and had been built with the added feature of horizontal travel at the bottom of the gravity well. It wasn't an attractive feature, she noted as the shuttle came into sight, but it got the Locking team implants in 3, 2, now, Al Amber announced as the shuttle descended toward the roof, his voice in her PCU barely audible over the roar. Distraction, 3, 2. The raised metal edge crumpled under the shuttle's weight, but the roof held as Craig set her down. And we boned the bad guy. Sergeants and above came into the military with jaw implants, full comm units set into the bone. Given what Al Amber had just piped in, the odds were high that the people making the decisions in the anchor had just lost interest in the fight. Move! Torn broke into a run, head down, visor protecting her face from the airborne debris. Craig had brought the shuttle up on their 180, using the anchor to block the exhaust, but had still thrown an impressive amount of heat and grit into the air. The grit would nullify the gun runner's heat imaging had any of them managed to keep their attention on the job at hand, with the shuttle landing on the roof and leaders writhing on the floor and screaming. She was close enough now. She could hear the screaming. Human, very probably male, and a Craig, no idea of gender. 11 years on various battlefields allowed her to add, can identify species by sounds of pain to her skill set. 3 years out of the Corps, and it remained a useful skill. The airlock on the narrow end of the anchor had been blown apart, either by the primacy or the Confederation, or a combination of both. The reality of war meant the winner often held real estate that had been destroyed in the taking, or the retaking. The windows on the first floor were long and narrow, but they were an obvious entry point, and the gun runners had reinstalled the exterior shuttles and essentially made the wall a spaceship hull, impenetrable to anything Torrance team had with them. Except, the destruction of the airlock had caused the end wall to buckle enough that the nearest window had been twisted a centimeter off square, the shutter unsecured, a triangle of light visible at the upper right and lower left corners. Torrin pulled the coil of wire from her vest as she ran, whipped it out to its 2-meter length as she reached the anchor, dropped to one knee to slide it through the lower gap, and thumbed the release on the capacitor before shoving it through hard enough to hit the interior sill. Then she stood and braced her forearms against the wall. Distractions off, boss. They'd spent part of the trip out here arguing the fine line between pain as a distraction and pain for the sake of causing pain. None of them had much sympathy on the gun runners. They spent too much time dealing with their customers. Using fingers and prehensile toes, Worst reached the second-floor window as the wire ignited. Well, they weren't stupid enough to store their ordnance in the unstable corner, Resnick muttered as his coat gripped her shoulder. Torrin hoped so, too. EW was often used as a detonator. When Resnick pulled off, she grabbed the line Worst had set down and went up hand over hand until she grabbed the windowsill and hauled herself over. Almost Cray-like, Resnick told her as her boots hit the wall. I can fit anything for 2 meters. Torrin settled the weight of her vest on her shoulders, swung her casing back around, and waved to Craig toward the door. The room was still set up as a barracks. 3 points had barely got beyond the entire colony living in the anchor when they were attacked. Given that space was large enough to keep any one system in the outsector from having much of a strategic significance in an interstellar war, the Confederation had assumed the attack had been over real estate with a proportionate nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, a gravity within specific tolerances, and readily available water. The assumption had been incorrect. There had been no logical reason for the attack, as the war had been run as a social experiment by sentient polynumerous molecular polyhydroxide alkali. Quirks and quarks, your tax dollars are worth. A discovery no one would have believed had Tori not got the shape-shifting organic plastic hive mind to admit it on camera just before they left to analyze the accumulated data. She'd been cleaning up the mess they'd left behind ever since. The second floor hall was empty. Scanners showed 2 thermal signs behind the closed door of the anchor's infirmary, 1 human, 1 ditaken, and the blood that had drawn a dotted line from the stairs leading to the infirmaries suggested they weren't doing what a human and the most enthusiastically indiscriminate citizens in known space were usually doing behind a closed door. Torm pointed at the lock, Rezek moved forward, touched a slate to it, and rewrote the code. The coiled spring latches rang out as they slammed into place, metal against metal. Not a lot of what went into space could be called delicate, and that included most of the people. The noise pulled Torrance' attention around to the main stairs, but it seemed no one on the lower level had heard the clang over the shouting. For the most part, they were shouting about the explosion, as well as someone named Baron's inability to keep watch, summed up at high volume. Lazy, blind, surly chicken, get your head out of your own ass! 2 locked in the infirmary, 4 downstairs standing, 3 on the ground. All 9 gun runners accounted for. Except, the infirmary windows faced away from Shauna's position. Craig, keep an eye on the north side of the building. We've got 2 hostiles locked in the infirmary, and the odds are good the more mobile will make a run for it. No honor amongst thieves? She could hear the smile in his voice and answered it with one of her own. Not that I've noticed. Only 4 left to take out. Brisk drew his lips back off his teeth. Want us to wait up here, Gunny? In answer, she started down the stairs, and they fell into position behind her. Their orders were to apprehend the gun runners. Were apprehend meant bring them in alive, or face a staggering amount of paperwork justice required for every corpse. Their task made more difficult given that the people they were trying to apprehend shot to kill. Farron, Dozy, check the weapons are secure. Matt, get that shutter dogged in. Shiraz, you're bleeding all over the fucking floor. Do something about it. Who put you in charge, Har? Har paused at the foot of the stairs, facing back into the community hall. That'd be when those fucktards took the chief out. Torrin could see a line of blood running from the corner of his mouth where he'd driven his teeth through his lower lip. But a Cray jawbone was one of the toughest organic substances in known space, and the pulse Al Amber had sent through his implant had done a lot less damage than it would have to a human or ditaken. It had done enough damage, however, that Har was on the bottom step before he noticed them pressed along the right wall. His eyes widened, his nostril ridges began to close, and Torrin grabbed him around the throat, yanking him forward through the butt of Wurst's casing. She was out into the community hall before he hit the floor. Shiraz slumped against the wall, awkwardly trying to wrap a blood-soaked cloth tighter around her shoulder. Torrin ignored. Mac, his broad back toward her, muscles straining against the seams of his shirt, was going to be more of a problem. She couldn't shoot a man in the back, so she shot him in the back of the knee. He screamed, hit the floor, rolled, and came up holding... Tarka had no idea what it was, but she looked down enough muzzles while in the court to recognize one now. It was small, dwarfed further by Mac's hand, and it was definitely a weapon. An easy to conceal and therefore illegal weapon. His first shot hit the wall behind her and ricocheted, drawing an impressive string of profanity from Worst. Mac's arm shook like a recruiter's knees, and Torrin figured he'd only hit her by accident if he hit her at all. As it happened, it was an accident she didn't want to have. Rehab can rebuild your knee, she snapped, not your head. Might have been a threat, might have been pain. The odds were about even as his arm dropped to the floor with an impressive thud. Isaac kicked the weapon away. The Cray and the Ditaken charging in through the door at the far end of the hall should have taken a shot from the doorway first. Should have, didn't. The belief in their own invulnerability, and Hart's reference to the chief, said Navy. Worst, go high. Going high, Gunny. There hadn't been a lot of ship-to-ship boarding parties during the war. The Artec had managed to latch on and get successfully through 14 hulls in 5 centuries, but the training required to fight giant bugs translated badly into fighting bipedal mammals. On the rare occasions there hadn't been Marines on board, the Navy had sent boarding parties out to defend or take stations in the primacy, and Torrin could only hope that neither of these two had ever been part of one. The Cray, Farron, given the Cray fondness for ours and the lack in Dozen, launched towards Worst, grabbing impressive air. Dozen, the Titaken, reached the Torrin, ready to grapple, intent on pulling her close enough for Farron to shift her attention. Torrin kicked Farron in the stomach. Worst climbed Dozen like a tree, wrapped both feet around his neck, and dropped down his back, using weight and momentum to drop him to the floor. Yes, the Cray fight like the Black Widow. The gasping Cray secured, Torrin turned her. She was almost certain the grey on green Mothman was a female hatter. Turned onto her side so she couldn't choke on her own vomit, and reached over to crank the Titaken's masker up in the lowest setting. Thanks, Bliss slapped the zip tie around slender wrists. Surly Churka fights dirty. Smartest thing any of them did. Worst adjusted the crotch of his trousers, lips drawn back off his teeth. Yeah, well, your affected bits are less protruding. The Titaken were the most sexually non-discriminating species in the Confederation, and the odds were high that primacy and the Methane Alliance could be included in that assessment as well. The pheromones that told their own species they were available made every other species incredibly receptive, and so far it had been every other species. The maskers let the rest of the Confederation make a choice about accepting or declining the perpetual invitation. Using the pheromones as a weapon was considered to be, as Worst had said, fighting dirty. Personally, however uncomfortable she might be for the next little while, Torrin approved of fighting to win.